everyone. Thank you for joining us on this live Nostalgia Crackdown here on the Post Credits channel, part of the Let's Get Ready network. I'm Adelia. That's my buddy Josh. We love talking about the Schmoedown, even though it's over. And we're here tonight to talk about two of the um, highest scoring and most memorable matches from the pandemic era of the Schmoedown. Josh, how you doing tonight?
Doing very good. I'm excited to try out this live format. We're going to interact with the chat for a bit. So if you have any questions, if you have anything to interject, we'll try and highlight that when we can. So I'm very excited to try this out.
Yeah. So, of course, our topic today is the two 5150 epics from season 8, the Star Wars title match between Alex Damon and Andrew Dimalanta, and the team's title match between Shazam and Corruption. Josh, when you think back on these two matches before we get into the details of them, what's the one thing that stands out to you?
It's fine because we're going to get into this. These are two very different matches, and they
Hmm.
invoke a very different response. But I think if the thing that's similar that I think about is like I'm watching Schmoedown Greats. Like I will say, we are going to have a top 10 legacy show, and a lot of the names we talk about will either be on the cusp of the top 10 or in the top 10.
Hmm.
And you're watching, at least in Star Wars alone, two of the greatest Star Wars competitors we've ever seen. Like, what's it called? We don't have a lost Star Wars champions, and we got two of them competing against each other. And this one is, maybe you could argue, the most influential match in Star Wars legacy history.
Absolutely.
And Corruption versus Shazam is two of the greatest teams we've ever seen as well. People argue Shazam is the greatest team of all time. People don't argue Corruption, but I would argue that other than you take out the people who are being considered in the goats, which is Shazam, Patriot, Shirewolves. You take those three out, there's a
It's
very, very good
Corruption.
argument to be made that Corruption's number four. Like, Corruption is the clear fourth best team on the Mount Rushmore. If you do a Mount Rushmore teams, like, I'm not sure. I haven't thought about that topic as much, so I'm not sure where I would put Corruption there. But the Corruption is one of those teams that are so respectable, and it's so interesting because they're usually teams get broken up very early
Hmm.
on. So the teams that stay together go through so many different arcs, and that's so interesting about the teams division when you look at the history of it. Is that, like, the teams that stay together for a long time go through different phases of their careers a lot of the time, because it's once you reach a certain match quota, whether it's like, I think, 5 or 6 matches, you stay
Hmm.
together for a while. And Corruption has a lot of matches together, and this is at the tail endish
Yeah.
of the Corruption era, but it, I think, also showcases why Corruption is maybe clearly the fourth greatest team of all time, and why they're so respected, and what an incredible, and they were, I don't want to say counted out, but like Shazam were the heavy favorites going into this match.
Yes, I agree. Let's start though with the first match that happened in season 8, which was the Star Wars title match. We had Alex Damon coming in as the champion, Andrew Dimalanta the challenger for having been the runner-up in the 2020 Star Wars Twitch tournament to Ace Cabrera. Ace Cabrera had his shot at Spectacular, didn't defeat Damon, and Christian at the end of the tournament had promised Dimalanta that he'd get the winner of that Spectacular match. So that
Before
was
we
this
go-
match.
Before we go into the actual match, can I ask you, Adelia, what were your feelings about Demolanta getting that title shot by becoming second place in the tournament?
I thought it was weird at the time, and it's probably still a little weird, but they were doing Star Wars matches so sporadically, even with it not having been the digital era, that for them to have been like, okay, here's a clear path for two people to compete in a Star Wars title match, I was actually somewhat okay with. I don't think you should be getting title shots based off losing. I I don't think that was a thing that they should have done, but there was like no other clear setup next challenger for whoever won that spectacular match, and there wasn't going to be enough time at the start of the season before Christian wanted to do this match to set one up. And the 2020 season was so weird. They did that Star Wars Twitch tournament, and then there wasn't another Star Wars in like May, and then there wasn't another Star Wars match until Spectacular. So I'm actually okay with it in the end that Dimalanta got this, but I remember thinking at the time, don't make this a habit, this failing your way into a title shot. Dimalanta obviously proved in the tournament and then this match and subsequently how good he actually was. But going into this match, he had a losing record. Like
Yeah.
that's how the Star Wars division was. Like it just wasn't established enough, I feel like, to do a number one contenders match against Laura Kelly or something to get to this point. Like it just didn't it wasn't the way Christian ran that division at the time.
Yeah, at the time I brought that up because at the time I had very clear feelings on it. I hated it. I
Mhm.
truly hated it. I mean, I understood the logistics reasons, and it really was probably a lot of logistics reasons because there was only so much time allotted to Star Wars within the season. And the
Yeah.
way to give Dimolanta a number one contender match instead of a title match is you have to have a match probably in between
To set
because you
up
can't.
who he'd face in the number one contender
Exactly,
match,
it'd have
yeah.
to be like a Laura Kelly versus, I don't know, Joseph Scrimshaw or something. Winner plays
Yeah.
Demolanta and then gets a number one contender match. But
Mhm.
even getting that one extra, and because that's how it would work in singles or teams, they
Yeah.
would have two. But Star Wars is such a weird thing, and I felt this at the time, and I felt this now. It reminds me a lot of IG in the Inman Navarro era, where the matches were so sporadic. You had these
Yeah.
4 the 5 person like number one contender matches at 1 or points. It's just like it's. I even have a hard time, honestly, now and thinking about like how to view Star Wars, how to view the whole division because it was such a it was such a weird division that it happened so irregularly. The match accuracy was so much higher than every other division, and at the time, they had a dominant champion that didn't even look like he was close to losing, and so every single person had a losing record. Like there was no
Yep.
people. Ace was probably the only person with a winning record, and that's because he just entered the division and won the tournament. It was a
Yeah.
very weird time in Star Wars. So I
Mhm.
understand it now more looking back on it. I hate the concept though, and and even now, even though I understand it and I love the match that we got because of it, I will never support giving a championship match to someone who lost unless it's a free for all.
Yeah.
Unless it's a free for all thing, and that's because you won something too, or
Mhm.
won some. So and part of me does wish if you're going to do this, have there be a storyline where and it's tough to do with Koi because it's like, oh, Koi's not going to blackmail Christian to
Yeah.
like, but
Yeah.
like find
And
some.
this was at a point in time too where they weren't doing storylines because they hadn't figured out how to do storylines in the digital era yet. Yeah. We've got Fool's Gill in the chat. Love Fool's Gill. He always comments on our stuff saying that tournament breathed so much life into the Star Wars division. I did not care at all before Ace had his run. Yeah, I think a lot of people felt that way. Um we we had that great tournament and then like nothing for like 6 months it felt like, and then the match between Damon and Ace at Spectacular. But then I think what that tournament did is show Christian, if we put investment into this division and give them more matches, which we got in 2021 with season 8. um it the division started to flourish, and then by the time we got to season 9 it was a Patreon only thing. And like, I don't know what Christian's whole deal was with that, honestly.
It was just tough because it's also a tough division too,
Yeah, it's tough,
because
and a
it,
lot of the competitors, especially with season 9, going back to doing it in person, a lot of the Star Wars competitors do not live in LA, so they couldn't just come down for the weekend to film a bunch of matches or whatever. So
it's in and because it's only Star Wars and such a limited amount of movies, you have to go so deep with the questions.
yeah.
It's one of the few things where it's like when it comes to singles and teams, you're never going to run out of questions. It's just
Yeah.
impossible to run out of questions. In Star Wars, theoretically, you probably can run out of questions if you have more and more matches. And
Hmm.
I think Fool's Kills gives a good point about the tournament breathing so much life into the division, because we got that incredible match between Ace and
And
Dimalanta,
Andrew Dimalanta,
and
yeah.
that was part of the reason why also I was a little okay with Dimalanta getting the title shot. That
Yeah.
was such a heartbreaking loss for Demolanta. And I think
Mhm.
this match coming up was also very important to like keep up the momentum that the tournament
Yeah.
built on.
Yeah.
Because
Absolutely.
if this and like we got a very historic tournament, we got a very historic final between Cabrera and Demolanta, and now it's like okay, we're starting to build up. The Damon versus Cabrera match was good, but like it didn't like
It wasn't as good as the tournament was.
exactly. So we were like, "Oh, was the tournament a blip in the road, or is it only we were watching to be like, oh, because, or is it just because the reason why it's so good? It's tournaments. The
Yeah.
tournament structure works really, really well in the Schmoedown.
Mhm.
Obviously, as long as you don't overuse it, but like the IG tournament, I think there's a reason the IG tournament when Kalinowski was in charge in corruption brought life into the IG division, and same with Star Wars.
Mhm.
Tournament
Yeah.
structures are really, really good in sports, especially Schmoedown. So this was the first
Mhm.
time where it's like, okay, this match between Damon and Demolanta, especially because if Damon defends again, it's going to be it goes into the thing. Are dynasties really, really good for the, or are they killing the or are they killing? It's like is dynasties actually good for the league? And that was going to be the
Yeah.
question if Damon beat Demolanta.
I
Is
mean,
that
yeah,
that would
absolutely. Like, was Damon being such a dominant champion killing the division is basically the question I had.
yeah.
But I want to say hi to Alex in the chat. Hey, Alex, how's it going? Um, let's let's get into the match now.
Mhm.
Um, Damon going into this match 6-1, two knockouts. Represented the Stars. He had a career accuracy of 92.26%. Dimalanta, like we said, 2-3. He was representing the Quirky Mercs. His career accuracy a little higher, 92.52%. That's how close they were in like knowledge. But Dimalanta had not had much luck in the Schmoedown prior to this match. Damon had been the champion for almost 3 years at this point, and like had never looked like he was going to lose. And we just talked about how Dimalanta got this chance. And you mentioned this as well. The Star Wars trivia was getting microscopic in its detail. Like the depth of questions that you had to know to be in the Star Wars division is just absolutely insane at this point.
Absolutely. And when we talk about the match as well, it's going to be a lot of both these got perfect rounds. Like we go into round 1 of no everyone expected this 11 for 11. Just
Mm-hmm.
perfect. What's it called like it got to the point where if you wanted to beat Damon you had to go perfect, and that's basically what Demolanta does.
Yeah. Um, Round two, Damon spun first, got mixed bag, spun again, got the Force Awakens, went perfect. Dimalanta spun Empire Strikes Back, kept it, went perfect. Score at the end of round two, 21-21. And I remember thinking at this point that this was a really good start for Dimalanta. Because, like you said, everybody was like, nobody could quite hang with Damon in some of these early rounds, or you get a bad wheel spin or whatever. But for Dimalanta to be tied at the end of round two, I thought was a really good position for him to be in.
Absolutely.
Round
Like I was just going to quickly say it was one of those things where it's like once you go those 2 rounds perfect for perfect, it's like in my head I was thinking, okay, it's just going to come down to the final round. Who gets the tougher 5 pointer?
Yeah.
And if not, sudden death.
Mm-hmm. Round three, Damon spun The Force Awakens. They both bet 3 points. The question, uh, as BB-8 rolls across the sand dunes of Jakku before meeting Rey, what kind of creature is seen popping its head up out of the sand? They both answered, Night Watcher worm. That's correct. We continue on with the perfect 24-24. Now, as this was a title match in the pandemic era and it was digital, um, they didn't have buzzers. They had the 10 question format that they used during that time. And Damon deferred to Dimalanta. Dimalanta went perfect. Damon's turn. Damon goes perfect. So we're tied at the end of round 4, 34-34. And so this is when I was really concentrating on, okay, whoever has the tougher 5-pointer is going to have more of an issue than the other guy.
I
Round
absolutely. I
Yeah.
was just going to quickly say that, like, I think that this shows the not fault, but like the issue of this new speed round, because the speed round in person, it's the one place where both players can go perfect, but one player can get an edge by speed, basically.
Mhm.
It was the one way where it's like, okay, these are two machines, but someone has to hit the buzzer first. Someone has
Yeah.
to understand the question first and hit the buzzer first. However,
Mhm.
because this is digital, I think this worked for this one specific match because they were both going into it with a perfect game. Because of that, it's like, oh, this as a novelty. I don't want to say novelty because it diminishes it, but as a built up the match in a way where it's like, oh, they can both go perfect and still be tied. If this was any other title match in person, that wouldn't be the case. Someone would gain an advantage in the speed round. There'd be no sudden death.
Mhm. Absolutely. So we get to round 5. Dimalanta went first because Damon had the champion's advantage. His 2-point question was in the category heroes. Got it right. Damon's 2-point question in Star Wars Underworld. Got it right. Dimalanta's 3-point question, planets and locations. Got it right. I mean, like these guys are perfect to this point still. Damon's 3-point question, A New Hope. Got it right. Okay, then Dimalanta got the Force Awakens for his 5-pointer and got it right. So this was the moment where we were like, okay, is Damon gonna get this 5-pointer? He'd always proven to us in his previous matches that he was probably gonna get it, and I was like, okay. I was in voice chat in the LGR Discord, which you can join if you click on the link in the description or if you use !Discord on Twitch. And I was writing down notes because the guys were going to do a show after this match was on for Schmoedown Crackdown. And so it's Damon's 5-pointer. He gets Revenge of the Sith, and then he gets it right. So we're tied at the end of regulation, 44-44, 100% accuracy for both of them to this point. And I tried to find out this information last night and I couldn't find it. But I do not remember if this was the first match ever with 100% accuracy through 5 rounds of a title match. I feel like it probably was. There might have been
Yeah, I
others
think
that go to
between both
sudden death.
competitors, both
Yeah,
competitors,
both
it had to be.
competitors. Yeah.
Because
I
of the format. Because of the format, it kinda had to be. I'm trying to think if there was any other thing, but I'm pretty sure if you're talking about both competitors. Other competitors have gone 100% accurate throughout the
but
entire match. We even
yeah,
went
but
through
like
Mark Ellis.
even in a previous championship match with the buzzers, it's possible to go 100% accurate even if you only get 2 points in the speed round because you
Yes.
only answered 2 questions, you didn't answer the others. So, I wasn't sure if it was or not, but I definitely feel like it
I
probably
feel like we would have
was.
remembered it if there
Yeah.
was something before this. I think this was for both players to go 100% accurate. I'm pretty sure this is the first time it happened.
Mhm. So we get to sudden death. And Josh, what were your feelings heading into sudden death? Who did you think was still going to win this match?
I have a like philosophy in sports where it's like I'm going to defer to the champion until, and like to be honest, Demolata has had his heart broken so many times
Mhm.
beforehand. It just felt like that was going to happen again in a way where it's just like, what is the most painful way Demolata can lose, and that's going to be how it happens. And so I was like, I think Demolanta. I'm like I would bet, but it could go either way. It was just I was holding my breath. I was watching it go down because really it just the luck of the draw. Demolanta has done everything he can do. Now it just becomes the luck of the questions.
Yeah. So on the 5th question of sudden death, we get a call of this match in Damon's favor because they said that Dimalanta's answer was incorrect to this question. During the initial approach on the Death Star 2, what does Nien Nunb say express worry about to Lando? Alex Damon answered that they don't have a reading on the Death Star shield, and Andrew Dimalanta answered that the Imperials are jamming them. Christian says Alex Damon has the correct answer that we're looking for, calls the match for him, and Dimalanta, to his credit, immediately challenged it. Talked to Coy for a minute, I believe, but immediately challenged it. He stated that Lando says in response to Neemnum, "How could they be jamming us if they don't know that we're coming?" And so that per the rule book that had been introduced, multiple answers to that question would be accepted if his answer was also not wrong. And so that was the challenge officially. Alex Damon gave a response to this challenge, saying by the wording of the question, Neen Nub's first words to Lando were his answer about the shields being they don't have a reading on the shields. Um, but after deliberations between Christian Mark and PJ Campbell, the head writer, his challenge was upheld and his answer was considered also correct. And so the match continued for another 4 questions. I believe 3 or 4 questions. 3 questions. So on the 8th question of sudden death, this match ends because the question was, "What is the name of the clone commander in charge of the troops under the leadership of the Jedi Knight Isla Secura?" And Alex Damon didn't remember in time. And I remember watching this, and he's thinking about it, and Dimalanta immediately wrote down an answer, and Damon's thinking about it and thinking about it, and I don't remember if he used a repeat or if he'd already used his repeat, but as soon as Christian called for time, he remembered it and he said, "Can I just say it?" And that's not how the Schmoedown works. You can't
No.
do that. So Dimalanta's answer was CC 5052 Bly, and that's the correct answer to the question. And we had a new champion with a final score in this match of 51-50. It was incredible, like, watching it live, and I know it was pre-taped because, matches like that were pre-taped, but watching it live in the chat, like, in the Discord, there was a whole bunch of people watching it and talking about what was going on, and what were your thoughts when this match ended, Josh?
I was. It's hard not to think about the challenge because you hear because the way it's run at work is after someone's announced or just champion match. They don't. Christian doesn't just say, "Oh, um, Damon is correct. He wins." They go, "And your winner,"
Yeah.
and they hold you in suspense. And there's also, I think, an emotional swing
Yeah,
for both
Damon looked
Damon
so relieved when Christian said that, like, he made it through, he won, it was a really tight contest, and then Dimalanta challenged. The
and
challenge is
like
everything in this match.
Absolutely, and because it's in the middle of the interview, I think, where Christian's talking to Damon, and Demolanta pops up on the screen. It's like, "I hate to do this, but I have to challenge the question because of blank, blank, and blank." And honestly, this was one of those challenges where I think you can argue either way. I truly think there's no, clear right answer of, I can see where Demolante's coming from, I can see where Damon's coming from. I also do not know enough about Star Wars to truly have an opinion on this. Like, I watch the
Yeah,
Star Wars movies, but when it comes to this type of question, I'm like, I guess. I mean, I understand.
yeah,
They both sound logical. So, but it reminded me so much of like sporting events where it's like the last call is just missed. I think about like the football of I forget the name of the game, but I think it was Saints Rams, and there was a clear pass interference that the refs did not call in the final
mhm,
play of the game, and that is or one of the final plays, the final drive, and that is what caused I believe the Saints to lose,
yeah,
if I remember correctly. But it's like I think about sporting events like that where there's a missed call in the last moment, literally the last second, the last drive, and when we see this always in the football season, in the regular season, every once in a while, where it's oh, I hate when the refs call the game or stuff like that. But like, it was just, it felt better because it was a challenge by Demolanta, so he had a bit of control. He was able to back up his reasoning with logic, and like, there was also a thing where it's like it kind of felt good that one of these actually slid Demolanta's way because so many in the past hasn't.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So Damon answered all but one question correctly in this match for an accuracy of 97.37%, and Dimalanta answered all 38 questions asked to him correctly for an accuracy of 100%. Um, It's just a phenomenal, incredible match. The drama of the challenge, like the scoreline in the end, it's like if an NBA game ended 200 to 199. Like that was a scoreline I never thought would be possible in a Schmoedown match, like unless it was an
Absolutely.
Iron Man match or something. Like
Yes,
yeah.
100%, and, like, it was one of those things I feel like where this match was perfect in a lot of ways, where a lot of things had it going for it, where it's like, I feel like if it was repeated in this exact way, it wouldn't feel as special, and it would actually feel kind of like, "Oh, they got" when it's like, it was the perfect storm of never seeing 2 people go 100% perfect. The fact that the speed round did not, differentiate, and then the fact that the challenge at the end in sudden death causes Dimalanta to stay in the game. It's like it was a perfect storm of everything going right in that moment to have this perfect spectacle of
Mhm.
showcasing the insanity of both these competitors in the Star Wars division. And
Yeah.
also part of it was the relief of like, oh, we got a new champion.
Yeah.
There's someone who can compete with Damon. There's and of course, because Damon defended 4 times, he gets an automatic rematch. So it
Mhm.
wasn't like, oh, Damon now has to wait his turn. It's like, oh, Damon has a chance to immediately, oh, you took it from me. I'm going to take it right back.
Yeah. I do wonder because this was the season, I believe. I don't think it was 2020 season. I think it was 2021 season where Damon really focused on competing in IG as much. He was in some IG matches in 2020, but I sort of feel like he was in that IG tournament kind of out of necessity. I know he played an IG match at the live event in Atlanta before the season got shut down, but this was the season where he really sort of went more into the inner geekdom department, and I just wonder how much of that affected his preparations for this match. uh Andrew Dimalanta had just this match to focus on, and he knew that for a very long time that this was going to be the match, whether it was Ace or Alex. This was going to be his opportunity, and I think he focused a lot on uh training and studying and all of that for this match.
And
And I just
if
wonder how
Damon
that
did,
has that affected any of it.
I wonder because if Damon did have split focus, it really didn't show because he did
No.
have almost he basically almost won the match. Despite he almost really did win the match. If anything, that might have happened during the rematch because the rematch was
The
not as
rematch,
close.
yeah. The
And
rematch was a decisive win for Andrew Dimalanta.
I think also part of it is like there's a phrase heavy is those I forget the exact
Heavy
word.
is the head that wears the crown.
Exactly. And so, like, I think about a lot of this in basketball, where we haven't had a repeat champion in a long, long time.
Mhm.
And you could see, like, the people who make the finals the next season, they feel you could see in the next playoffs, they're a little exhausted. That's why LeBron making those 9 straight finals or whatever the number is was so incredible, but Jordan making 5 in a row is that like it's a long season when you make the finals and you win it. It's a long thing to defend the champion. For Damon to defend it for 3 years straight,
Yeah.
and there's a reason why I think that was such an incredible run, but there's a reason why he was never able to get back to that height. There's a reason
Yeah.
that that's because it's tough, it's draining. To be at that level for that long, and the minute you lose not the focus, but the minute like the division catches up to you, it's tough to like take your game up, and that's why I'm going to talk about this more again. I teased this episode a bunch of times in the top 10 legacies. I think there's a different level to champions that are able to lose the belt and then win it again. I think
Yeah.
I that's one of the things I view most highly. The highest form of achievement is losing a belt and then winning it back, going through the journey of winning it back.
Mhm.
So I think it's going to be very interesting. But the Star Wars division is now when we talk about like the tournament breathing life. This was another moment that breathed life, where we had this moment
Absolutely.
of perfection on both sides, and we have a new champion.
Mhm. Absolutely. So about 4 months later, we had a teams title match at Schmoedown Collision 4. And this one is a little different than the 5150 that Damon and Dimalanta did because this was done in person and filmed for Collision. Um, Shazam were the champions. KOrruption were the challengers. It was July 31st, 2021. Shazam 10-2 going into this match. KOrruption 8-3. And these two teams were the best two teams at the time by far. Like you said
Yeah.
earlier, like they're easily both top 5 teams all time in the division in my
Uh,
opinion.
I
It's
would
just a
even go
matter of where.
far to say if you had a teams tournament
Mhm.
and you put all the all-time teams at their peak against each other, there's a very real argument you can make that Shazam and Corruption are both the betting favorites to win just because of Mike's IG edge, how good they were at the game, and how dominant Shazam was in the first couple rounds.
Mhm.
They were two incredible. It was an incredible matchup.
Yeah. Uh Shazam, of course, William Bibiani and Brendan Meyer. KOrruption, Mike Kalinowski, and Chance Ellison. I would say that going into this match, Shazam had started to get that reputation that maybe they're the best team ever. And KOrruption to me had the edge between the two teams in grit and gamesmanship because they were the heels. They, were they were the bad guys in this matchup. And they were able to come back and win matches in ways that Shazam never had to because
Yes,
of a bad first round from Kalinowski or a bad first round from Chance or a bad wheel spin or something. KOrruption had fought back in matches a lot more than Shazam had.
yes,
Round one, we saw a little bit of that where Bibiani, Meyer, and Ellison all had perfect rounds and hit the bonus, but Kalinowski missed 2 questions. And we got a question in the chat from Foolsgill. Was it just me, or did the talk die down about no team being equal or better than the Patriots after the 51-50?
I think it's possible because it was once Shazam built up because this was first an incredible match, but really the thing that the Patriots had against Shazam was the defenses. It was
Mm-hmm.
so hard to get a defense in the teams division, and they built up so many. No other team was even close to their defenses. But now the fact that we talk about Shazam, I think gets close to the defenses after this match. I believe this was their second. It was either the first or second. I think second defense, either first or
I'll
second.
look it up.
But the fact that like you were actually getting close to the defenses, it's the way where it's I think that like if Mahomes, again, I'm a sports guy, so I will always make sports analogies.
Mm-hmm.
If Mahomes gets to 5, I think people will call him the GOAT. Like or 6. He doesn't have to actually reach Brady's 7 because his peak and his physical ability and the way he plays the game and the fact that he's never had a bad season, if he continues to never get before the
Mm-hmm.
championship game, at least the conference championship game, is that's the lowest he's ever been. It's like if he doesn't have to reach 7 technically for a lot of people to call him the GOAT, if as long as he gets at least 5.
Yeah. So this was Shazam's first defense after winning the belt back. And then in this run, they would go on to have a total of 4 defenses before they lost to King Arthur.
Yes. So it I think I don't think I think it was this talk where it like started. However, I think people didn't put it because it's like, oh, the Patriots defended so many times and this is Shazam's first defense. I think after the like at the end of the second defense, that's when the conversation really started heating up. And then the third defense is when people were like, oh, this is the greatest team of all time.
Yeah, because how many defenses did the Patriots have?
I believe 6.
Yeah.
I have it up here. They have 6.
Yeah, 6. So, yeah, they came close in the end in total number of defenses. They came
4
closer
versus
than
6 is
anybody
respectable.
else. Yeah,
Yes.
but I think that the the quality of the teams, not necessarily the wins or the defenses or anything like that, but the quality of the teams in this match made people go, "Oh, I wish we could have seen them against the Patriots after this match."
Yes.
So, I think there was probably some talk about them being as good as the Patriots, even if they hadn't had as many defenses yet.
And also to talk about how this match went down, I think if you want to say a theoretical Shazam versus Patriots match, I think there's a lot of cases you can make that can go pretty similar to this match because
Yes.
the Patriots don't have the edge in the first couple rounds, but you can make the argument they have the edge they have is in, and we'll get to this. It is in the later rounds, and if you want to build a case to beat Shazam, and this was what was so dominant about Shazam. You can't beat them in the first couple rounds. You
No.
really have to wait until the speed round, and then you have to be within 5 points because
Mhm.
for as great as they were not like, oh, if they're winning in round five, it's over. They have actually shown a couple times that if they will let people back into games or possibly lose games because of the final round. Both Bibiani and Meyer had this both in their singles career and teams career, where tough five pointers has sunk them, or tough round fives, final rounds have sunk them multiple times. And we'll get into this
Yeah.
as we go around in the match.
Yeah. So, score at the end of the first round 18-15 to Shazam. Shazam deferred at the start of the second round. Corruption spun IG mixed bag, and you know they were keeping that with Kalinowski on the team. They went to multiple choice once, got 4 out of 6 questions correct, and earned 8 points. Shazam crucially stole both misses for a total of 3 points. And then Shazam spun 2000s and kept it, went to multiple choice once, but they answered all 6 questions correctly and earned 11 points. Score at the end of the second round 32-23 Shazam. At this point, I was like, it's going to take something pretty big to get corruption back into this game. Because, like we said, Shazam are such great front runners.
Yes, it's one of those things where it's like I wasn't counting corruption out yet because we've
No.
seen Kalinowski especially get down early in matches and be able to make incredible comebacks. The one that comes to mind
Mm-hmm.
is his matches against Rachel Cushing in IG.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that
So
Schmoedown Throwdown match that was live. Yeah, absolutely.
but it also was like, okay, you gotta hope for you're the ball's not in your court anymore. Even
Mm-hmm.
if the best case scenario happens, and and you'll see as this go along, you still need Shazam to miss their 5 pointer probably.
Yeah. So round three, the betting round, Shazam spun Nicolas Cage. They bet 2 points. Corruption bet 3 points. They both were correct. So score at the end of the third round, 34-26 to Shazam. And as we said, they filmed this live in person for Schmoedown Collision. So the buzzer round was round four. We didn't have the 10 questions like we had in the previous 51-50 match. Uh, this is where it starts to turn because Shazam answered 1 question correctly, but Corruption answered 4 questions correctly. And so the score at the end of the fourth round, 35-30 Shazam. And just like you said a moment ago, Josh, Corruption was suddenly within 5 points going into the final round.
And this was what they needed to be because I remember going to the speed round specifically is like you have to get the 5 points. If you get the
Mm-hmm.
6 points, you have to make the 5 pointer matter because like yes, it is possible because it did. Shazam actually did. I don't want to say blow, but like they did lose to the odd couple by missing 2 questions in round three, so it was possible. But you want to make the 5 pointer matter, especially against Shazam. This match really made me realize, and I'm spoiling a little because Shazam does end up missing the 5 pointer. What the Patriots were so great at, like never blowing the final round or the speed
Yeah.
round. That was their strength. Is like, listen, you have to get them early because they will get you in the speed round and they will get you in the final round. They will not. They were. It was incredible how good they were at 5 pointers. Honestly, looking
It
back on it,
really was, yeah.
that might be. They might. You can argue they were the greatest champions at the 5 pointer. Is
I think
like
I'd agree with that, yeah.
But Shazam is the opposite. They are incredible in the first 2 rounds where they can knock you out almost. You could be playing great, but they are so picture perfect in the first 3 rounds However, all their losses are just like them letting their opponents back in, and then an unlucky final round question or two.
Yeah. So Corruption went first. Their 2-point question was in scores and soundtracks. Kalinowski got that right. Their 3-point question was in 2000s. Chance got that right. So it went to Shazam for their 2-point question. It was in crime, and Brendan got that one right. And then it was time for Corruption's 5-pointer. They got horror, and they got it right. So Shazam had the 3 and the 5 left to win the game. Their 3-pointer was in remakes and reboots, and Bibiani got that right. So now it was down to the 5. They got a Pixar question. What specific object had crushed and killed musician Ernesto de la Cruz during a live performance in Coco? They said a really big guitar, and the answer was a bell. So the score at the end of regulation 40-40.
What a rough 5-point question. First off, it's in a category that they're both not known to be strengths in.
Yeah.
I don't remember if it was animated or Pixar, but I remember Bibiani had a really rough animated spin against Bateman in his match against Bateman at the number one contender
Mhm.
match. And when it comes to like the questions that can get players like Bibiani, it's like what's the specific object? And it is a plot point, I think, at some point in Coco, but it's like you have to remember this very specific plot point in a Pixar movie that, to be honest, is not the most it's not the most memorable Pixar movie. It's not like
And
Toy
that's
Story,
not the most memorable moment in the Pixar movie
not
either.
at all. So like it's a very honestly, you can make the argument that it's more like like a 7-point question or an eight
It's
point
a
question.
really, really difficult 5-point question.
It's like it's gettable, but it's also like, oh, geez,
Mhm.
okay. Like, you have to really it's one of those ones where if you don't remember it, you're never going to get there. You can't logic your way there.
Mhm.
And they try to because the guitar is a logical answer, because of the movie. They know the movie, but it's
Yeah.
if you don't
Yeah.
remember that detail, it's like it's the same with the Bateman, heavyweights question.
Mhm. Absolutely. So the match goes to sudden death, and on the 7th question of sudden death, it ends. The question was, who plays a college basketball coach who travels to Africa to find talent in 1994's The Air Up There? Kalinowski said Matthew Perry. Bibiani said Kevin Bacon. Chance said Donald Sutherland. Brendan said Billy Crystal. I could see all of those actors having done a movie like that in the 90s, but the correct answer was Kevin Bacon. That put Shazam up 51-50, and they were still the champs. Um, crazy, crazy match.
Absolutely. And one thing that we didn't mention about this match is that we have to. Chance Ellison in this match is
Chance was
absolutely
so good.
insanely good. Like, this is the moment where it's like Chance doesn't have his like individual moment. He never has a singles or IG champion. A lot of and Kalinowski's viewed as the face of corruption because he has that IG championship, because of the storylines with him, because he's such a great heel. This
Mm-hmm.
was I will say this specific match. This specific match is like if you want we're going to if you want to make the Chance Ellison legacy argument for top 10, it's this match. He is so dominant, he is so good in this match. He keeps corruption in the match the entire time, and like it's a moment where it's like even in a loss, it's like, oh, you're proving your greatness here. You are showcasing that like no matter what happens for the rest of your career, it doesn't matter. You're always going to be viewed as one of the greatest Schmoedown players and one of the most accurate
Yeah.
and dangerous Schmoedown, because you almost, I don't want to say single handedly, because again, Kalinowski didn't do terrible in this match, but
Yeah.
like your teammate wasn't performing to Shazam's level, but because you were honestly, Chance was performing above Shazam's level the entire match. He was
Chance was
by
the best
far
player in this match.
by a mile. It's incredible, and that's not saying anything against any of the other players that played in this
Yeah.
match.
No.
Chance was on another level this match.
I think that it would be interesting to do a show someday, Josh, where we just discuss the top 5 teams players ever. Not
Oh
top
yes,
5 teams, but just the teams players. And I think Chance would be in the top 5.
I
He
think
was
so too. I
so
mean,
good at teams.
incredible. Like it honestly, like you can make the argument other than the Patriots that like it would be tough to make like I'm trying to think of the other people other than the Patriots I would put in chance. It's like Bibiani maybe, Meyer maybe, but just because they're part of Shazam. I honestly,
Yeah.
as great as the Shirewolves were, I wouldn't put Clark or Rachel in that
Mm-mm.
discussing. It's
I'd
like
I'd maybe sneak Andrew Guy in at 5 because he was really good in teams.
I
But
know it's just tough though because he doesn't have a championship. It's
yeah,
like, can you really be in that discussion if you don't have a championship?
I
Bayman
think you
doesn't have
can.
a championship. The sneaky one is Merle. Merle is sneaky
Merle in
because
teams is good. He was a teams
Roca
champ.
is actually better than Merle though in teams if you think about
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Roca,
That might be an interesting thing to discuss on another episode.
absolutely.
Corruption answered 37 of the 46 questions asked to them correctly for an accuracy of 80.43%. Their record went to 8-4. And including the steal opportunities, Shazam answered 41 of the 49 questions asked to them correctly for an accuracy of 83.67%. They went to 11-2. This was their first title defense in this reign. And yeah, that was that match. Um, Such different matches, but very similar in a lot of ways.
Absolutely. It's like you're seeing two different types of greatness. One is perfection, and the other is one team is a little off, but they're able to it's the comeback. It's the
It's
comeback
the
versus the
comeback.
two teams that are like head to head.
Mm-hmm. It's the comeback for underdog comeback. Maybe they don't get the win in the end, but it makes for a memorable match versus like a no hitter between two pitchers, a no hitter duel that gets broken up in extra innings for somebody to win. So, it's just a lot. So did you realize in real time how legendary these matches were, Josh, or only later?
I think for the first one, the Star Wars one, yes, because it's two people going exactly perfect. You have the
Mm-hmm.
challenge moment. Absolutely. The second one, it took a bit because this looked like it might be a knockout early on. You don't
It
really
did.
realize it until because also the other thing that happens is the Shazam still has to miss their 5 pointer. If
Mm-hmm.
gets that 5 pointer as well as Corruption played, I don't think we'd be remembering this match at like that differently from other championship matches
Mm-hmm.
or stuff like that. The fact that Shazam gets that extremely difficult 5 pointer
Yeah.
and it goes to sudden death, and the fact that also that like because like Shazam has a huge edge in the sudden death format because that's more like round one, and they were one of the best round one teams of all time. So
Absolutely.
the fact that it went for 7 questions, and Kalinowski bounces back from that rough round one because Kalinowski didn't go perfect in round one. He was had to shake off like, oh man, I can't lose it for a chance right now, and he didn't for the
Mhm.
most part. And also,
He
by the
didn't.
way, what's also somewhat legendary that we don't talk about enough. 4 different answers in that final round. So we're all,
Yeah.
especially the people who don't know the answers, like myself, I barely knew any Schmoedown answers, especially championship matches, to be like, I have no idea who's correct.
Yeah, when
Because
they
sometimes
all gave their answers, I was like, I could see all of those guys being correct. Which one of them is correct, if any of them? Like, if imagine if they'd all been wrong and they kept going. That would have been so crazy.
yes.
Um, do you think any other teams in the division could have hung with them that day?
At the it depends, because there's 2 things you have to view. Can someone because there's 2 ways you can hang with them. Can someone have gone perfect, like or not perfect, but as close to perfect as Shazam did in that match? I'm
Mhm.
not sure of at the time. However, I think the Shirewolves could have, and I think, Above the Line are both teams that like could have
Yeah.
hung with Shazam in that way, and we later see that King Arthur can, but like
Mhm.
I don't think we ever saw King Arthur in their true prime in a way that like I especially in that match when Shazam was on point. I think really
Yeah.
I think those were the 2 teams when you're talking about which teams can um um do the corruption route, which teams could have like had like gone a bit behind and come back in the speed round in round 5? Patriots, obviously, that's the obvious
Mhm.
one. And then it gets very difficult. It gets very, very difficult to think of any other teams. Like honestly, that could, and that's what made the corruption so impressive on their end, despite it being a loss, is the comeback from
I
that down.
think
The go,
yeah. I
I
think Odd
it's
Couple might have. Andre
oh,
Quinn
yeah, Odd
Snyder
Couple definitely could have because they actually came back from a bigger deficit against Shazam.
against Shazam, yeah.
So,
Um,
yes.
yeah. Do you think that these matches raised the bar too high for their divisions? Like, could anything after these matches, like, not feel doomed to be smaller by comparison?
I think in teams, no. I think teams, it's fine because, like, you get so
Yeah,
many matches in teams and there's
I
so much
agree.
more storyline potential. Star Wars, there's a legitimate argument just because of how inconsistent the matches are, how much less storylines there are in Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, it made it to a point where it's like, you had to go perfect in a lot of ways because then the next champion we get is Thomas Harper, and then Dimalanta gets it again, I believe, at some point. It's just
Yeah,
one of
after
those
Harper
ones.
retired before season 9, Dimalanta ended up being the final Star Wars champion.
So it's like one of those ones where it's just like I don't think the bar being too high is a bad thing for the Schmoedown because even the match, if you don't, it doesn't matter if you have a perfect accuracy game or in this they show it. The second match is not a perfect accuracy game. Like
Mm-hmm.
you can have a low bar game in a way, but as long as it's competitive, it's going to work. As long as you don't have to reach this level in accuracy or entertainment, but you can get there at least close in some different aspects. That was what was great about the Schmoedown. The
Yeah.
issue is with Star Wars is that like you have to have a lot of swings at the bat to get there. And Star
Mm-hmm.
Wars just did it. And Star Wars is a weird division for me because it's the division I like the least by far, as you can probably tell how I talk about it. I didn't hate it or dislike it, but it was like we didn't get the matches. The questions were so deep. I never. There was a weird like disconnect. I couldn't connect as much because at least in the other matches, once every 20 questions, I would actually know the answer and be like, "Oh, I know that." With Star Wars, I'd just be like, once in every 100 questions, maybe I would know the answer, but
Yeah.
it's very difficult because the questions were so deep, and it's also, I feel like, less entertaining when people are more accurate, and that might be weird to say, and that's what it is with the Star Wars division. It's less entertaining when it's just like, "Oh, it's going to go perfect, going to go perfect, going to go perfect," and then when they don't go when someone misses a question, it's like, "Match is over." And I'm not saying
Yeah.
that was how I felt in the in the Star Wars matches, but it just a little honestly that when you talk about the bar being set too high in Star Wars, it got to the point where it's like you have to go perfect. You miss a question, the match is over.
Mm-hmm.
It's tougher to like feel excitement or get connected because you just immediately think the match is over, or you immediately think you have to go perfect, and you're never going to be like on the edge of your seat in the same way. I almost relate it to the tush push in the NFL, where I think that play is the most boring play because it's 4 for 1. You always assume they're going to get it, and when they don't get it, it's like, oh, the game's over in a way, or oh, that could cost them the game.
Yeah.
As if it's the deciding play that is. It's better because, like, when you lose the tush push, then the offense comes on and there's back to imperfection and back into, like, stakes. But for that specific play in that moment, I never
Mm-hmm.
feel any tension. I always feel like they're going to get it. And I feel that that play is so boring, and I wish they banned it, but it's what it is.
Yeah. Um, I feel like these two matches are the peak of the digital era. What do you think about
Yes.
that? Yeah. I
I
think
think
that's
it's
very
definitely
clear.
up there. I think it's definitely up there. I think, like the Dimalanta Damon is like you can even make the arguments to pick out the Star Wars division in total. It's like it's hard to get as good as that
Mm-hmm.
ever. When it comes to yeah, I would say it's up there for sure. I mean, it also helped that this was one of the first live events or like in person matches in the
Yeah.
digital era, and so
Mm-hmm.
it was a huge breath of fresh air to actually have the buzzers and to actually see it in person. So like I think it's definitely up there. I think that's a very fair statement for sure.
Okay. And final question tonight, before we wrap things up. If you could only preserve one of these matches in the Schmoedown Hall of Fame, which one would you choose?
Uh, I have two different minds. If you're like, oh, which match would I want to keep in the Schmoedown history? It would be the Star Wars match, no question, because you have two people going perfect. You had the
Yeah.
challenge. It's just, and also you have the end of the Damon era, and the kind of going into the
That
Dimalanta
match
era.
is much more historically relevant for sure.
However, if the question is like, oh, which of these matches do I think is better for a new fan, or which of these matches would I show to get a fan into the Schmoedown? It's a teams match, and it isn't close because I think like the questions are they're hard, but like someone who likes movies can actually get those questions. Compared to Star Wars, where if you're not a huge Star Wars fan, it's going to be much tougher to play along. I
Hmm.
think like it's actually good to see competitors miss questions to get people into it. I think if people just think it's always going to be perfect or it's always going to be like, I think that's tougher to get a new fan into it. So
Yeah,
like if you're asking like which of these questions would I keep to get other people into them, and also I think the buzz around is a big difference between the two when it comes to pure entertainment value.
absolutely. I agree. I think I'd probably put the teams match in the Hall of Fame because the Star Wars match is definitely much more historically significant
Yes.
as far as like that division, but that teams match was so special with the fight back, and it wasn't perfect. And like you said, it was more interesting when they weren't perfect than when they were. So,
Yes.
all right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here tonight on our first ever live Nostalgia Crackdown. We're going to try to do these live more often. Shug's disagreeing in the chat, of course. Um, but thank you, everyone, for joining us. Josh, where can people find you?
They can find me here at LGR. Supporting LGR is supporting me. I'm here once a month in the Nostalgia Crackdown, and I'll tease this. I might be on a new show coming up soon, which I'm excited about. So support LGR any way you can, and you'll see me at least next month on the Nostalgia Crackdown.
Yeah. Josh is going to be on the sports channel a little more often than he has been. We'll just tease that. If you want to follow us on the sports channel, it's the Good Friends Better Rivals channel. There's a link to that on the front page of this YouTube channel or on letsgetreadynetwork.com if you're watching on Twitch. Shug in the chat saying, a new show, you say? Yes, we do. Shug might be a part of that as well. We'll get to that when we get to it. But you can find me back on this channel tomorrow, 3 p.m. Pacific, doing the Rewatchers Council for Angel. You can find me at 5 p.m. Pacific on Saturday, doing the Rewatchers Council MCU edition. We'll be talking about Doctor Strange, and I just got a text, and yep, we have guests on that one. Video Drew and Nerd Chronic are going to join us for the Doctor Strange review, so that'll be fun. And yeah. Well, just all the stuff that you need to know about what's coming up on the Let's Get Ready Network is on letsgetreadynetwork.com. So check that out. Until next time, everyone, we are out of here. Bye.
It's for real.